But once upon a time, in a dense green forest that seemed to stretch on forever, there lived a humble woodcutter. He was a kind man, though life had not been easy for him. He shared his small, cozy cottage with his 3 young sons, and every day was a struggle to put food on the table. But despite their poverty, their home was filled with love. One bright morning, the woodcutter kissed his sons goodbye, slung his axe over his shoulder, and headed deep into the woods to chop firewood. The sun dappled through the leaves, and the air was crisp with the scent of pine. As he ventured further, he came across a figure he hadn't seen before. Sitting on a fallen log was an old woman, her face etched with wrinkles like the bark of an ancient tree, and her clothes were simple and worn. She looked up at him with tired eyes and spoke in a voice as soft as rustling leaves. "Kind sir," she said, "I am so very hungry. Could you spare a small piece of your food? I haven't eaten all day." The woodcutter looked at the small, hard loaf of bread he had packed for his lunch. It wasn't much, just enough to see him through the day's hard labor. But his heart went out to the old woman. He couldn't bear to see anyone go hungry. Without a second thought, he sat down beside her and broke his bread in 2, handing her the larger piece. "Of course," he said with a warm smile, "please, take this, it's not much, but I'm happy to share." The old woman ate the bread gratefully, and as she finished the last crumb, a strange and wonderful light seemed to glow in her eyes. She stood up, and her frail posture straightened. She was no longer just a tired old woman. There was an air of magic about her. "You have a truly kind heart," she said, her voice now clear and strong. "Such goodness should not go unrewarded. I am a fairy, and for your generosity I will grant you a gift." The woodcutter stared in astonishment, unsure if he was dreaming. The fairy continued, "Go home now. When you arrive, you will find 3 small birds have come to your cottage. Listen closely to what they sing, for whatever they sing will come true." And with a shimmering whisper she vanished, leaving the woodcutter standing alone, utterly bewildered but with a heart full of wonder. He gathered his axe and hurried back home, his mind racing. Could it be true? Magic, a reward for a simple act of kindness. As he neared his cottage, he heard the excited shouts of his children. They came running out to meet him, their faces beaming with excitement. "Father, Father, you won't believe it." The eldest cried, "3 beautiful little birds flew right into our house. They're sitting on the rafters." The woodcutter followed his sons inside, and sure enough, perched high above them were 3 birds, their feathers shimmering with colors he had never seen before. As the family watched in silent awe, the first bird, a brilliant shade of sapphire blue, puffed out its chest and began to sing. Its song was a melody so pure and clear it filled the entire cottage, and the words it sang were, "The king's daughter shall be mine." The woodcutter and his sons looked at each other, their eyes wide. The eldest son, whose cheeks flushed with a mix of shock and hope, felt his heart skip a beat. Before they could even process this incredible prophecy, the second bird, a vibrant emerald green, joined in with its own tune. Its voice was just as enchanting, and it sang, "The key to the royal treasure shall be mine." Now it was the second son's turn to gasp. The key to the royal treasure, it seemed impossible, a dream too wild to even imagine. Finally, the third and smallest bird, with feathers the color of pure gold, began to sing its own song. Its melody was the sweetest of all, and its words rang through the cottage with a promise of destiny. "The golden crown shall be mine." The younger son, who had always been quiet and thoughtful, looked up at the bird, his heart filled with a strange sense of certainty. The news of these magical singing birds spread like wildfire through the village and soon reached the ears of the king himself. The king was a powerful and stern ruler, not one to take kindly to talk of his daughter, his treasure, and his crown being claimed by 3 poor boys. He was suspicious and angry. Prophecies from birds sung in a woodcutter's hovel. He boomed to his guards, "This sounds like treason. A plot to steal what is rightfully mine. Bring these boys and their father to me at once." The royal guards stormed the woodcutter's cottage, and the family was brought before the king in his magnificent throne room. The woodcutter and his sons trembled, surrounded by the grandeur of the castle and the stern faces of the courtiers. The king glared down at them from his golden throne. "So," he said, his voice dripping with menace, "you are the ones who claim my kingdom through the songs of birds. Explain yourselves before I have you thrown in the dungeon." The woodcutter, though terrified, bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice shaking, "we meant no disrespect. It was a gift from a fairy, a reward for a small kindness." He then told the king the entire story, from meeting the old woman in the forest to the birds arriving at his home. The king listened, his expression unreadable. He was skeptical, but the tale of a fairy's involvement piqued his curiosity. He was a man who believed in signs and omens. "Very well," the king declared, "we shall put this to the test. If these birds of yours are truly magical, let them sing for me now. But be warned, if this is a trick, you will all pay dearly." The 3 little birds, who had been brought to the castle in a cage, were placed before the throne. A hush fell over the entire court. The first bird, the sapphire blue one, hopped to the front of the cage, looked directly at the king's daughter, the beautiful princess who was standing beside her father, and began to sing, "The king's daughter shall be mine." Its melody echoed through the hall. As the last note faded, a strange thing happened. The princess, who had always been courteous but distant to her many suitors, looked at the woodcutter's eldest son. For the first time, she saw not a poor boy in simple clothes, but a handsome and honest young man. A warm smile spread across her face, and her heart felt a connection she had never known. It was as if destiny itself had woven a thread between them. The king watched this transformation in his daughter with shock. He had never seen her look at anyone with such affection. Before he could speak, the emerald green bird began its song. "The key to the royal treasure shall be mine," it chirped. At that very moment, the royal treasurer, who was holding a large, ornate iron kether, one and only key to the vast royal treasury, stumbled. The key flew from his hands, spun through the air in a perfect arc, and landed directly in the hands of the woodcutter's second son. The entire court gasped. It was too perfect to be a coincidence. Finally, it was the golden bird's turn. It sang its sweet, powerful song, "The golden crown shall be mine." As the melody filled the air, a sudden gust of wind blew through the high windows of the throne room. It wasn't a strong wind, but it was just enough to lift the heavy, golden crown from the king's own head. The crown tumbled through the air, glinting in the light, and landed gently, perfectly, upon the head of the woodcutter's youngest son. It fit him as if it had been made for him. The hall was in an uproar. The king sat on his throne, utterly stunned. He looked from his daughter, who was now smiling at the eldest son, to the second son holding the key to all his wealth, and finally to the youngest son, who stood there wearing the royal crown. His anger melted away, replaced by a profound sense of awe. This was not a trick. This was not treason. This was fate. The old woman in the woods, the fairy, had set a destiny in motion that even a king could not deny. Realizing the will of a power greater than his own, the king stood up and smiled. He saw the goodness and honesty in the woodcutter's family, the same qualities that had earned them this incredible fortune in the first place. He embraced his destiny as a father-in-law and a mentor to these fortunate young men, and so everything the birds had sung came true. The eldest son married the beautiful princess, and their love brought great joy to the kingdom. The second son became the new royal treasurer, and with his honest heart, he managed the kingdom's wealth wisely, ensuring its prosperity. And the youngest son, wearing the golden crown, became a beloved prince, learning the ways of ruling from the king, destined to one day lead the kingdom with wisdom and kindness. The poor woodcutter, whose simple act of sharing his bread started it all, was brought to the castle to live in comfort and luxury for the rest of his days. He never had to chop wood again, and he watched with pride as his three little sons, once poor and humble, became pillars of the kingdom. It all goes to show that you never know what incredible magic can come from a single act of kindness. Thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful fairy tale. We hope it brought a little bit of magic to your day. If you enjoyed the story, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more enchanting tales. We'd love to have you back with us again soon. Until next time, take care.